Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me again for the live Q&A session here on my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I am a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and my channel is dedicated to those of you just getting started in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, I share with you tips, tricks, techniques, things that I do every day in my own voiceover business, and then we get together in these weekly chats to have a conversation about a topic or two. But if you're not new here, then you know every week we have a new poll, which is generally the topic of the day. We'll see how it goes. But today's poll is, what are your major concerns for audiobook production in 2026? Actually, I didn't change it. That was last week's. Holy Moses. That's it. I'm fired. I'm fired. As you guys can clearly see, those of you on YouTube anyway, I wonder if I can I change this? It should be, which part of your VO business do you struggle with most? Good God. Amateur. Your options are finances and budgeting, health insurance setup, branding and logo design, and building a website. Thank you for all the love and attention. I am brain dead this morning, apparently. 35% of you, it's almost like a three-way split. So 35% of you said finances and budgeting. 30% of you said, I blame age, branding and logo design, and building a website. So it's pretty much, not much of you are very concerned about health insurance. But if there are questions, we'll skim over that if there's questions about health insurance for voiceover, if you're curious. Finances and budgeting, building a website, branding and logo design. Okay, I'm gonna just, let's see, where should we start first? Let's do finances and budgeting. Of course, as I always say, everybody's journey, situation, schedule, everything is going to be different across the board, but I think a general rule of thumb is in terms of going full-time, perhaps, how much money should you have set aside before you can viably go full-time, I think is usually the question I get when it comes to finances, and I can see all the hearts. Thank you guys on YouTube for finances and budgeting. What I did was that, as most of you know anyway, I was employed full-time and I was doing voiceover on the side and I'm putting money away. I immediately started a PayPal account and I started putting all of my voiceover funds, all the income into that, and I treated it as a business checking account because you can't have a business checking account without first having a business. And I didn't have a business at that point because I was still getting my bearings pretty much, just to see if this was something that I could do, that I could sustain, so on and so forth. So I created a PayPal account and kept everything in there. And then once I got to a certain point, I think it was about a year and a half in, I decided to form my LLC. And then at that point, once you have that documentation, you can go and open a business account. And then I moved all my PayPal funds into my business account. And then I think that was about a year in, maybe just less than a year, I should say. And then once you have enough money saved up for, I would say, safely 6 months worth of bills, and, you know, to be able to replace the income that you are currently making, I would say whatever that number is, whatever that number that you need to make per month and still be able to feed the kids, do all the extracurriculars, pay all the bills, take 6 months of that number multiplied by 6, and then have that put aside. That's basically what I did. And when I got to that number, I still didn't say, okay, that's the point where I fire my boss and go full time. Once I got comfortably to that number, I still continued to work. It wasn't until I was losing voiceover business, not being available because I was working full-time, that's when I decided to make the jump. I had enough money saved and I pretty much had the ropes down, and then I quit. And then I went full-time. So I had a little bit of a cushion in case things went sideways. So whatever it takes, or however much time it takes for you to get to that point, is going to be different from person to person, obviously. But that's, I think, a pretty good rule of thumb. Anything else for finances that I didn't touch on, please just ask the questions. There's no dumb questions. Just ask your questions. For branding and logo design, I think a couple months in, I decided what I was going to be known by, which was voiceover Angela Productions. And so I went to Fiverr. And I found a logo designer because I didn't want just a logo, just a simple logo, like something you can make on Canva or something like that. I went to Fiverr and I had a guy that had really great reviews, had a lot of orders delivered, and I went to him with my ideas, and what he gave me was a few different logos for different purposes. So you'll have to keep that in mind when you're asking for a logo, because having a singular, like a small little logo, is great, but you're going to need different sizes for different applications. Meaning you're going to need a logo for your website, then you'll need a transparent version that you can then put on, everything if you wanted to. Then you want a social icon size logo, and then even better yet, an animated version of your logo for, let's say, if you decided to make a YouTube channel or something and you would like something a little bit more zhuzhy, than just a standard static logo for that. And then also a logo that is a banner size for, say, LinkedIn, your Facebook page, your YouTube channel page logo, right? So you're going to need a few different sizes for your logo. But deciding on what your logo should be, you don't necessarily need to have like a concrete idea. If you go to someone that's got some artistic skills and's got some, website design or some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like artistic skills. I can't think of the actual word, but graphic design, that's what it was. Then you can just throw your ideas at them and they can shoot you back a few different variations of what they interpret your idea to be. And then you go from there. You can make some alterations, make some changes. Another thing to think about is your business palette, your color palette. I chose red, silver, and black. Those are my brand colors. So, and it's good to have 3. So, and that's something your graphic designer could probably help you out with too, deciding on, based on color theory and things, and what your niche is going to be, what you're going to focus on. Those things are more important than I thought they would be. But you'll have to decide on those as well. And then the branding aspect of that, of course, is using your logo and your profile picture, your headshot, across all platforms. So there's consistency. You're easily recognizable, right? From place to place, from platform to platform, to social platform to social platform. There was something else waving at me. What was the other thing? Consistency, right? Branding consistency. And of course, you're going to use that logo everywhere. Building a website, and we've touched on building a website many times here on my channel. I think Anthony Pica with Avio's Journey, which I'm now part of the Academy, as most of you know, we're going to start offering website building for voice actors and authors at some point. I'm not sure if those are available just yet, but at some point we will be offering those services, which is kind of handy. Right? If you're just going, I don't know. But what I did is I went to Wix. I first tried out a few different website like hosting platforms. There's GoDaddy, there's Blue something or other. I just went to Wix because it was easy and it was, highly recommended at the time. And most of these website hosting platforms will allow you to create a website for free. Right? It's going to have their branding on it and stuff like that. But in the beginning, who cares, really? All you really need is just a singular page for your website that has a picture of you, ideally the headshot that you took. Oh, and by the way, that was the other thing that was trying to get my attention, was the headshot. I took my headshot with My phone, my cell phone. And I've used that same image for years. So you don't have to go and hire like a photographer or, have professional headshots done. You can. I'm not saying you can't, but I didn't. I just took it with my cell phone and then used that. And then I've upgraded it. I've changed it out over the years. Building a website. Oh, that's right. Singular page. All you need is a singular page with a picture of you, a little bit about you, things that you enjoy as a person, right? Something that other people can relate to, right? Your hobbies, the things you like to do outside of the studio. And then you can also have a section that details what kind of equipment that you work with, what your preferred types of voiceover are, what you've been doing most, I guess. Whether it be audiobooks, audiobooks, e-learning, commercial, commercial voiceover work, IVR, video games, whatever it is that you tend to do, then put all of that in your about me or your bio. And then you need a way for them to contact you, for the clients to contact you. And then you also need a way for the clients to hear you. Now, I used to recommend SoundCloud as putting a link to your demos in SoundCloud, but I don't know if you want to do that anymore. I think a better way to go is just to create a YouTube account and create some videos, some demo videos. And they don't have to have video like images or anything. They could be a static image that you make on Canva and just put that in there and then send the client to your YouTube channel to hear your demos. I think that would be a better way to go. Not too sure about SoundCloud anymore. Excuse me. I think that was it for building a website, branding, and logo. If there are, again, any other questions, please let me know, and I think we'll do that now. Thank you for all of you for joining on TikTok and Instagram. I see you guys. Thank you very much. We're going for it again today. We're going for it. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, and we're on TikTok. So it's a little overwhelming, but we'll get there. All right, so let's get over to the comments. Let's see. Who was in first? Abe. Abe was in here before I even set everything up this morning. Good morning, Abe. Good morning, all from Nashville. May your per finished hour be high, your noise floor be low, and your peaks be in the middle. Wouldn't that be nice if everything was just perfect every single time? Ken P is here also. VO is supposed to be a business. Guess I had better be nice to my boss then. I hear I can be a bit of a pain, but I am taking me on a trip to meet the subject of the book we are narrating right now. Oh, that's fun. Where is that? Can't just tease us like that. You got to tell us where you're going. Break Time Cafe says, hi, Angela, longtime watcher here. Where is the best, least expensive place to build a website? Can I build one in Canva? I want to say that you can. I mean, I don't know if there's really anything you can't do with Canva anymore. As I said, I used Wix, and you can create a free, like, single pager. You used to be able to. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if they charge anything, but it used to be able to create just a free one pager. I would go and take a look and see if they still do that. But if you do decide to have a like an upgraded, like a premium membership with Wix, there's all kinds of different packages depending on what you need on your website. And again, you don't need much really to start. But Wix is where I started. It was super easy. You don't need to have coding experience or anything like that. It was super easy. Once you go there, you just choose a template of what you want the colors to look like or how you want it formatted or laid out. And then it's really just, it says, insert your title here, insert your about me here, and then you just change the text to whatever you want it to be. Insert your picture here, insert your logo here. I mean, it's pretty simple to follow for Wix. But that's where I started. Jason Kirkover says, hello from Kearney, Nebraska. Excited to be here. Thank you for the advice, the tips, and strategies. This channel continues to help me do more and do it better and faster. Good. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. By the way, Jason says, I have been recommending your channel to some friends who are interested in getting started in VO. Thank you for that. You have a fantastic channel for those of us coming up in the business. Oh, thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. Jules says, hi all, I'm lurking while I sew today. That quilt won't quilt itself. Yeah, they typically don't. What is it that you're quilting? Is it patterned? Is it just a solid color? Is it multiple colors? What is it? Inquiring minds want to know. Paul says, good day, Angela et al. From Dunmow, UK. Back on the right time zone after messing up last week. Our clocks go back a week before yours. Yeah, we had a time change. Sunday. Our time change was Sunday. So not for me in Arizona. My time stays the same. So I'm actually coming on live an hour later than I normally do, but it's still 12 p.m. EST. So it kind of messes everything up, but it is what it is. I guess we're just special Arizonians. Paul says, I didn't vote on the poll as my biggest challenge isn't listed. That remains finding enough projects at the right budget. Have you, and I know a lot of you have probably been in a similar situation where you perhaps find something that is interesting, something that you want to do, something that aligns with you. However, the budget isn't where you want it to be, which is understandable. Have you ever tried to negotiate with the client? Meaning, what I typically do, if a client hits me with a number that is maybe halfway to what it should be, I will tell them. I would say my rate for a project of this type and scope, including all of the things that they want it to include, you know, maybe it's rights, maybe it's music, whatever it is, it would normally be this much. I understand that you're asking for it to be this much. Would you consider somewhere in the middle, right? And if you tried negotiating with your clients, because sometimes they do. Once they understand that what they're asking for is maybe way off base, or maybe there is a little bit more wiggle room in their budget than maybe they were letting on. Maybe they were just trying to save a couple of bucks, because who doesn't do that, right? You could try negotiating a bit. Has anybody tried to do that to any success? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? Paul's here. Good morning. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, good morning. Paul says, just this morning I turned down a 14-hour audiobook with no reviews on Amazon and a sales ranking in the 400,000s. It was a royalty share offer. And I'm not going to put down that kind of thing, because some people like to do royalty shares. Some people like to narrate or produce audiobooks that large. I mean, it's the beauty of being a business owner, right? It's your prerogative on what kind of audiobooks you want to produce. And sales rank, I would say I would produce a royalty share book that was less than $1 million in sales rank. Less than $1 million, I think, is what it would be. I don't know about 14 hours, though, because that's, I mean, just for the sake of return on investment, unless it was something that was really hot, you know, trending in the market. If it was like a romantasy, or if it was, what were the genres we talked about last week? Romantasy, historical fiction, if it was something evergreen, like self-help, something like that. It depends on what it was. But usually, as a rule of thumb, I don't do royalty share on anything less or anything more than 50,000 words. Unless it's something that I really, really, really wanted to do. But a sales rank in 400,000s means that maybe a copy sells like every 4 days or something like that. I forget what the ratio is or how to break it down. But I think anything less than $1 million, and you could even say less than 800,000, maybe, I would do as a royalty share. I mean, if you think about books, I mean, not everybody is going to come and buy the same book. You know, not everybody's going to have the same sort of interests, right? So unless we're talking, you know, John Grisham, Stephen King, those are going to have really fantastic sales ranks because they are, you know, notable, popular authors. But, you know, I wouldn't put it down for a 400,000. I'd say that's pretty good. I'd still do it, but not for 14 hours. George says, happy Tuesday. So great to be here with Angela and all the VO peeps. So great to have you, George. Pam's here. Hey, Pam. If I can click it, there it goes. Thanks for joining, Pam. Rustic Hillbilly is here. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Only got a few minutes, but we'll catch up later. Fantastic. I'm glad to have you here. That random Yoruba guy says, and there she is. Holla, Angela. You guys are so funny. Holla. Oh, we do have a question on Instagram really quick. Anita says, hi, Angela. I'm a beginner from Iran. Excuse me. Can you tell me where I can find samples to make demos for ACX? If you don't have any copy to make samples for ACX, I just go to Project Gutenberg, which is gutenberg.org, right? That is a website where you can find all of the books in the public domain, meaning out of copyright. But ACX, unless they change something, you might want to check their FAQs, but ACX themselves used to say, just grab a book off your shelf if you just need copy to make something for your samples, to post some samples. So again, always check, always check before you do anything, because I might have outdated information, but that's what it used to be. But me being that person that always errs on the side of caution, I would just use something in the public domain. Therese says, so delighted to be here for this live conversation. We're so delighted to have you. I love all this positivity. That's the poll I saw. Yeah. Sorry for the brain damage this morning. Dylan said, hi, Dylan. Good morning or good afternoon, all. I chose finances and budgeting. I had to make the tough call of letting my most consistent job go because I wasn't charging them enough since I started working. Continued here for them early in my career. It was taking too long to produce their audio because I had to look up way too many name pronunciations. I'm surprised that did you ask? Probably a dumb question, and you probably already did it, but did you ask them for like a pronunciation key? Ask them to record the pronunciations for you? I mean, I get it. I've recorded stuff for people all over the world, and I have to do that too, but I get it. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Actually reminds me, I think I skipped over something I wanted to talk about this morning. Oh yeah, we forgot to talk about rate sheets, and actually we've talked about rate sheets before. Having a consistent rate across all platforms, if you can, is ideal, because you don't want someone to find you on Upwork or whatever platform it is, and then they go to a different platform and recognize your branding and recognize you and say, hey, why are the prices so different? I mean, that could be the thing that just turns the client off, and then you're kind of dead in the water with that one at that point, right? So you want to try to keep your rates consistent across the board. Not only that, but have a actual rate sheet, which you can create easily in Canva by using one of the menu templates. And we've gone over this before in one of my other live sessions, and all of my live sessions are recorded. So if you want to go back and watch any of them, they're here on YouTube. So you're welcome to go back and watch them. But it's good to have a PDF version of your rate sheet, because you will have clients that maybe find you if you just start a YouTube channel or a podcast or something, and they reach out to you on your website and say, hey, can you send me a rate sheet for X, Y, and Z? You can send them your rate sheet, right, in an email as a PDF. We talked about diversifying income quite a bit. What was the other thing? Business hours. Business hours and boundaries. And I think this is something that we tend to overlook, especially in the beginning, because we want to hit the ground running. We want to make as many connections as possible, have as many clients as possible, get as many gigs as possible, as many orders, because we need that social proof, right? On places like Fiverr and Upwork, where there's a rating system, you need that social proof. We want to, but it's very easy at that point to burn yourself out. And that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to finally get to the point where you're starting to get comfortable with everything that you've just raced to build. It's like racing to a red light, right? You spend all of this extra time, sacrifice a bunch of sleep, and then you get to this point where it's starting to get comfortable, but then you're just like, I'm so sick of this now. I'm just so burnt out. I have no energy. I have no desire to continue to do this, or I just need a few days off, and then your momentum is just completely gone, right? So I think pacing yourself is really important. Not only that, but business hours. It was an important thing for me. Like, I will interact with clients, mentees, stuff like that. Although I do make exceptions, but for the most part, I will work in this studio from this time to this time every day. So those are my business hours. And then anything after that or before that is reserved for my family, my own mental health, doing things that I enjoy, running errands, so on and so forth, the kickboxing and all the other things that I do, going to the gym. And of course, there's always going to be exceptions. Maybe you're in a lull one day and you decide to go to the gym. But, for the most part, you want to have business hours and set some boundaries. Cherise says, I made it. Hi, Cherise. Glad you made it. Kat says, good morning, Angela and all. Tickle the like and subscribe buttons. Yes, please. Squish them. Do all the YouTube-y things. And all the Instagram-y things. And all the TikTok-y things. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Alicia's here. Hi, everyone. Therese says, wow, I need to work at that level. Which level are you talking about? Which level? I think if that's your goal, then go get it. Set that as your goal and go get it, Therese. Review Exchange Group says, I'll say branding and logo design since I just moved away from masonry construction to Audiobook Review Exchange. Same podcast host, refreshed brand. And sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes you got to refresh. I might be due for a refresh. I've had the same branding and logo for 8 years, 7 years. Something like that. I'm still Coach Gary Micheloni, but it carries over. It does. Therese says, early on, how do you find work? I started on ACX with audiobooks, and then I went to Fiverr with an audiobook gig, and then I went to Upwork and built a profile there for audiobooks. I was all audiobooks in the beginning. And it wasn't until clients heard my voice or found my gig or however they found me, then they would say, I see that you do audiobooks, but I think your voice is perfect for this other project that I have. Could you do this? Right? Sure. I just do a quick, Google search and go to YouTube University to figure out how to do it or what it meant or whatever I had a question about. And then, once I convinced myself I could do it, I'd go and do it. And then it just sort of progressed from there, and it sort of built into just about every other type of voiceover that you can imagine, right? But it's good to learn these new skills, like, how to work with PowerPoints and how to create video and all of these things that kind of marry beautifully with voiceover. Learn all those skills. I see Anthony's here. Hey, Anthony. Glad to have you. Actually, Anthony, I don't know how long you've been here, but we were talking about building voiceover websites. Are we offering that yet? Just wanted to touch on that since we talked about it. Tanya's here, even and all. Not having the safety net of knowing how much I'll make each month has been hard to get used to. Also having to convert dollars to pounds on most jobs so far. Yeah, I could see how that would be a pain. Although on some of the websites that like freelance marketplaces that we work on will do all of that for you, but that would be a pain. And I think that's why having a nice little cushion is definitely a good thing to have in those, because it's not going to be consistent income. Anytime you're a business owner, it's just not. There's going to be good months. There's going to be bad months. There's going to be fantastic months, and there's going to be like crickets all month long, right? It's not consistent at all. And that is another reason why we say to diversify your income. Maybe not just all voiceover and audiobook related, but then also have another stream of income where you're offering some other skills that you have. Or, you're doing something else on the side, like Amazon FBA, or whatever it is. Have multiple streams of income. Why not? If you have the skills and the know-how and the ability, which you do online, there's so many opportunities online. Pick one. Abe says, I'm pumping the brakes on that tangent right now. Abe says, how much time daily, weekly do you spend on VO when you were still working elsewhere? That varied, of course, depending on what I was doing. But I was pretty much working for someone else. I was still unavailable for voiceover for about 11, 12 hours a day. From the time I got up to the time I got home from work. So call that 11, 12 hours every day. So by the time I got home, it was pretty much make dinner and then heading into the studio to do some stuff. So let's just say I was working on an audiobook. I might have to sacrifice an hour of family time and maybe an hour of sleep and a few weekends to get caught up and stay on top of things. But I think also having a good idea or making sure that you have a realistic delivery time is going to be very important, especially in the beginning. If we're talking audiobooks, I would say something 50,000 words or more is going to, 50,000 words, around 50,000 words, I would say at least 30 days to complete it. It's not unheard of. It's very typical. Anything above and beyond that, I would ask for another week, another 2 weeks, another 3 weeks, right? And then if you don't need all of that time, you deliver it early and you're a hero and you might even earn yourself a tip, right? Just to be realistic about your delivery times and you should be fine. That should take some of the stress off if that's where we're going with that. But it's going to vary. It varied from day to day, project to project. Review Exchange Group says, logo design. I went to ChatGPT, which we have now, which does a whole lot more than, we have. ChatGPT can do a whole lot more for us now than we had 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Utilize it. And got something rough, sent that to Fiverr, and got an acceptable logo and thumbnail to get started. Don't let it hold you back, but get something. Yeah. We have so many tools now available to us. It's insane. Angel says, hello all. Yes, I have a singular page on my website, and I took my photo in my bathroom and changed the background. Yeah, see? Hey, everybody on TikTok, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. The Real Ray Porter, thank you. You like my booth decor? I treat my booth like it was my teenage bedroom. Lights, Funko Pops. I've got my, you can't see it on TikTok, but I've got my Targaryen flag. I'm a little bit of a, over here, a little bit of a Targaryen nerd, Game of Thrones. But that's okay. I'm letting my nerd flag fly. Joy says, good afternoon, Angela and company from chilly Southfield, Michigan. Chilly, sunny Southfield, Michigan. Yes, budgeting, getting my desk organized, and business money management are my main challenges. I need ways to conquer it. I think, Joy, you have a lot of people available to you on our Discord. You could ask some questions about, get some ideas on what everybody else is doing and then see if one of those works for you. Right? Sage says, good afternoon, Angela and fellow VOAs. I almost feel like I want to say all of the above since I'm still fairly new. Oh, yeah, I didn't forget the creme brulee filled brioche donuts. Oh, God. That sounds amazing. Pastries. Those are my kryptonite. Pastries are my kryptonite, for sure. Hannah Maria says, good evening, all, from rainy Estonia. I've missed you guys. If someone wants, I'd be really happy to hear about your past week's VO happy moments or frustrations. Share those in the chat. Also, everyone hit the thumbs the thumb-like looking button up there, make sure it's pointing upwards and not downwards. Yes, everybody please simultaneously like everything. Those of you on Instagram, TikTok, take a moment and throw me some likes. I appreciate it. I'm trying to get on more platforms and more traction on some other platforms other than YouTube. YouTube too. I appreciate you guys. Rebecca says, hi all, logo branding website. I just use Caesar. Of course, now I need an animated logo, so thanks for that. Running errands and listening in. I'll grab the donuts while I'm out. I love it. I love donuts. I just do. George says, branding my voice persona has been much harder for me than building the website itself. I use Squarespace. Hard to examine oneself and put words to it. Am I right? It is. It is. And I always would freeze like a deer in headlights when I was asked for any of the platforms that I was on. If they ask you like, how do you describe yourself, or how do you describe your voice, or, something of that nature, I always just freeze. I don't know. But then I started to get creative. You could even ask ChatGPT, right? What are some funny, creative, relatable, cheeky even, things that I could say about my voice to grab attention? Because essentially that's what you want to do. If someone's looking at your bio, or if that's your tagline or anything like that, you want something to stand out. A voice like butter. Something like that that's going to stand out and make them stop and take a look at your profile. So get creative. And we have the Chat GPT to use for that. Just to get some ideas even, right? Jules says, I'm quilting flags for a metaphysical shop, but I do have a quilt up next after this. A Christmas quilt, to be specific. I like it. What's on the quilt? Flags for a metaphysical shop. What's on your flags? There she is again. I know, Gramps. You can't get rid of me. I'm here to stay. Hannah says, one of my VO updates this week is that I switched from Audacity to Reaper because I would eventually move on from Audacity anyways. Better do it now rather than spending a whole lot of time learning Audacity and then moving on and starting all over again. I kind of had the same thought process. I mean, I started on Audacity. I think a lot of us do because it's free. There's nothing wrong with free if it works. But there were some frustrations that I had with it. And wasn't until my partner at the time has suggested that I try Adobe Audition, and then I was pretty much instantly hooked from there. But I only used Audacity for maybe 3 months or so. But if you've used Audacity for longer than that, don't let a switch to a other DAW stop you, like having to, like the thought about, I have to like now relearn a whole bunch of other stuff, because there is a lot of what you learn in Audacity will carry over into the new DAW. It might be named a little bit differently, but it'll be essentially the same. And the DAW might have more features, like Adobe Audition had a ton more features and more like an intuitive design that just made more sense for me, right? So don't even, if you've been with Audacity for like a year, don't let the thought of moving to a different DAW scare you, because a lot of it is going to translate from DAW to DAW, and there might just be some new things that you need to learn. So don't let that scare you. Jason says, good advice about negotiating. I always negotiate and mostly succeed. Most clients have a good amount of goodwill and want to pay you what is fair. It's a fun process, and I've come to love it. Yeah, I mean, not every client is going to have the budget for that project to pay you perhaps what they would like to pay you, right? To pay you what you're worth. Maybe the project they took on, they had to be flexible in budget to get it done just to keep the client. Maybe it was a longtime client of theirs, right? Put yourself in their shoes and, be flexible, be fair to all parties involved, but there's nothing wrong with being a little bit flexible with people, with clients, especially if it's a client that you think you might see repeat business with. Right? If it's let's just say the client is a company that makes e-learning content. They make e-learning videos, and they find you and they say, hey, I see that you're that this project should be, let's just say $400. I only have $250, right? I only have $250 set aside for the voiceover. Would you be willing to negotiate that? And then at that point, you can decide whether you want to negotiate somewhere between your $400 and $250, or you can just say, yeah, I'll take it this time, right? Be flexible, ask questions, be fair to both parties. Hannah says, and now I've put a lot of time into learning Reaper and processing. Even did a 9.5-hour course about EQ here on YouTube. YouTube University is fantastic. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that you can learn on YouTube. Hey, David. I see you all on TikTok. Thank you so much. Throw me some likes. I appreciate it, or some hearts, or whatever they are. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Teresa says, that's what I did. Pulled books off my shelf. Well, there you go. That works for ACX. Hannah says, I find doing samples of books I really enjoy better for me because I'm really excited about them. Of course. Of course. If it's a book that you like, or a genre you like, or something that you can relate to, connect with, something you enjoy, that's naturally going to come through in your read if you enjoy it. Again, like we said last week, if it's like taxes or something about, funeral planning or something like that, that might be a little bit tougher to do for a sample. So you might want to choose something that you like a genre you like. If you like horror, do a horror sample. Something that's going to come through more expressive naturally, right? Yep, Anthony was here. I don't know if is he still here? Thanks for joining, Anthony. I appreciate you. Dylan says, the job was a YouTube channel about soccer. There are so many different teams, leagues, and players from everything. Oh, yeah, I could see that. The names were a nightmare, and I really don't like soccer. Yep, I feel that. Chris said, hi from Southern California. I was born and raised in Southern California. So, Chris, you're like a homie. Hannah says, oh, Anthony's here. Hi. I've been watching you and Angela's channel like crazy. Yep, Anthony's got some great stuff. Him and Gabby are live, I think, every other day but Tuesday now. Leaving space for little old me. Thanks, guys. Adam says, not an option that was listed, but finding clients is my biggest issue. I've booked work on ACX, but that has mostly been royalty share. Upwork and Fiverr haven't yielded anything. Are you on social media promoting the fact that you are an audiobook narrator, Adam? Are you? Could be a YouTube channel, could be a podcast, could be LinkedIn, could be TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X. Twitch. I mean, wherever it is that you have to be in front of the eyeballs. And everybody's eyeballs are on social media for some reason or another. Again, whether it's for entertainment, just a 30-second distraction, if it's for looking up information, whatever it is, most eyeballs are on social media all throughout the day. So pick a platform or two and create a presence there and make it known that you create audiobooks, that you are a voice actor and this is what you do, right? Because I have a lot of authors that find me through my YouTube channel when they're searching for information and one of my videos pops up and they go, hey, she looks like she knows what she's doing. I think I'll reach out to her, right? Anita on Instagram says, Dear Angela, if I want to start with commercials, where can I start? If you haven't done any voiceover work at all, Cubase is a good DAW to use for VO. I'm not sure what Cubase is. Is Cubase a DAW? I haven't heard of that one. I don't know. I don't know about Cubase. I would say for commercial work, if you haven't done anything yet, commercials can be a little bit trickier depending on the branding, what it is that you're doing, the tone you need to use. I would say to everybody, I mean, training is imperative. It just is. I would start with a lot of training and then have your coach guide you into finding the kind of commercial work or voiceover work in general that you're looking to do. But start with training, I would see would be your best bet. Hannah says, I don't know if it's okay to talk about other services here, but has anyone had experience with the Great Audiobook Adventure course? I'm unfamiliar with that one. Dylan says, hi, Anthony. Anthony says, thank you so much for watching. Let's see, questions. Ken says, I am going to Lake Wales and the International Skydiving Hall of Fame induction to meet Jerry Bird, the subject of the book. Oh, that's cool. That is so cool. Make sure you have business cards. Some of those other people at that ceremony might have books that need to be produced into audiobooks. Just saying. Have some swag, at least, at the very least. Business cards. Anytime you go anywhere as a business owner, and you have to treat this like a business, not a side hobby. Even if it is a side hobby, you should still have business cards. You never know when you're going to end up in a place where you could meet someone who might need a voiceover for something. Whether it's user-generated content, UGC, commercial work, an audiobook for a book that they just finished. Always have business cards on you. Professor Tracy says, good morning from Rochester, Minnesota. What is your thoughts on using a hardware for compression or not? Like an analog compressor? Yeah. I mean, it just depends on your preference, if that's what we're talking about. I use compression with an Adobe Audition. It has a couple of different compressors. But some people prefer, analog pieces for that. Analog preamps and mixers and things like that. Why not? If Caesar were here, he would tell you, heck yeah. Joy says, hi, Anthony. Oh, here we go. Anthony says, yes, we will be offering it very soon, probably in the next week. This is websites for you voice artists. So once we have a green light go, I will let you guys know. And that should solve all of your website building issues. We should be able to do that right within a VO's Journey Academy in the next week. So hold tight. That's awesome. Thank you, Anthony. Dylan says, diversify income streams, audiobooks, voiceover, IVR, feet pics. Oh, geez. I hear, everybody's got their thing, and then, I don't know, I'm drinking coffee. Feet pics. But I do podcast editing also. And I've also learned how to create video, edit video, things like that. So all of these different skills you can definitely use if you're, proficient with Google Slides or Canva or PowerPoint. Those are good skills you can offer people. I have clients asking me all the time if I can create the PowerPoint presentation. I typically just add voiceover, music, convert it to video, things like that for an existing PowerPoint presentation, but I don't create them. But I have clients asking me all the time if they gave me a PDF and some, a direction, if I could create one for them, and I don't. But if you do, that could be potentially a service that you offer on Fiverr, and then as an add-on service, voiceover, music, right? So take the skills that that you've probably learned in corporate America and put those to use on the freelance side. I like dinner. I like dinner too. Eric Grimes says, hi, Angela and A-Team. I checked finances because I have insurance through my wife. However, she hopes to retire in about 5 years, so insurance would then be an issue. On website, what are your must-haves? We touched on what you should have on your website. For those of you wondering about health insurance, if you are a self-employed person, freelancer, whatever, depending on the state or country that you live in, I would just Google self-employed insurance and see what comes up. But you've got, healthcare.gov here in the States that you could look at for health insurance. If you've lost your insurance, if you don't have someone else in the household that can cover you, there are some I think there's health insurance through the union if you wanted to sign up with the union. There's a few different kinds. There's private insurance through some brokers. You'll find some options very easily and quickly if you just Google self-employed insurance and then the country or state that you're in, it'll give you some ideas. But you definitely want to consider those premium prices in what you're saving when you're financing or when you're saving, when you're budgeting. Yeah, when you're saving finances. Was that just a brain fart? What was that? I don't know. That's definitely something else that you want to consider. And then you'll also have to consider taxes because we get to pay quarterly taxes as business owners too. So you'll have to make sure that you're setting aside enough money every month to pay those quarterly taxes as well. That's the fun part. And I'm being facetious. It's not fun, but part of the gig, right? Hannah says, quick question about post-production. Do you edit out all of your mistakes and then apply your effects rack, or do you apply the effects rack first and then start trimming, etc.? That's a great question. I apply my effects rack right after I'm done recording. I record it, save it, and then you can, if you want to, which I recommend in the beginning once you're getting used to your effects rack and things, is saving it as a raw file. Rename it as raw. And then apply your effects rack and then start editing and then save that without the raw or as a edited file. I mean, name it something else so you effectively have two files now. You have the raw file and then you have the edited file. That way, if you don't like the way the edited file sounds when you're done with it, you can still go back to the main raw file and try something different. But I record, save, and then I apply my effects rack because I use a little bit of a noise reducer. I use a mouth declick. I use a deplosive, a little bit of a de-esser, and compression. And then when I go through and edit after the effects rack is applied, I'm only like taking out what my effects rack didn't, or what it didn't take out, right? Or what it didn't reduce far enough or enough of. But I only take out retakes. I look for mouth noise that was too much for my mouth declicker to remove. And then the big annoying breaths, perhaps, or like a cough or a sip of water or a sip of coffee. I remove that stuff, but everything else gets left in for the most part. I'll adjust pauses and things too. Joy says, I never heard of Audiobook Gig as another platform besides ACX and Ahab for audiobook audition platforms. Are there? Yes. Joy, literally Google audiobook publishing or audiobook publishers. There are dozens of them. Not only that, but you have access to one, Academy Voices, that's included with your membership to a VO's Journey Academy. You have access to our own audiobook production company. So you have that too. Hannah says, I have to run, meow. Dance class is calling. Catch you guys in the replay. Bye. I hope you stretched and limbered up a bit. I need like an hour of stretching before kickboxing. Therese says, my studio is in my closet, very small. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This room is very tiny. It's only like a 5x6 storage office thing. I'm not even sure what the original intent of this room is, but I'll take it. Cloud Sugar says, I am very new to voice audiobooks and seem to have taken on a lot more than I can handle and am experience a bit of burnout. How do you go about handling it? Take a day off. Take 2 days off. Reset. Go out in nature. Touch some trees. Go walk the dog. Go to the gym. Get a massage. Go take a nap. Go read a book. You know, whatever it is for you that helps you to relax. I tried to disconnect as much as possible this weekend. Just for that reason. Because you need to do that every once in a while. You can't just work. I mean, I work every day. Sometimes for a couple of hours, sometimes the entire day. But every once in a while, if I am in a little bit of a lull, I'll take advantage of it and, you know, do something on my website or refresh a sample. I'll do a little bit of work, but then I will make sure that I intentionally rest. Rest, you know, the tool, the voice, make sure I hydrate, eat good food, but rest. You know, watch a movie, go outside, like I said. But yeah, you got to pace yourself. You got to pace yourself or you will burn out. You got to step back every once in a while. You have to force yourself to. And like I was talking about earlier with business hours, you could schedule yourself a day of rest. For me, I work Monday through Friday when it comes to clients, mentees, that sort of thing. I give myself the weekends to spend that time with my family and to rest for myself, or to do hobbies, or to go to the range, or whatever it is, right? You have to do that. Gramp says, Chat GPT, it's a terrible thing to waste. I know, right? Jules says, on the flags, there's a wolf, death's head moth, Black Panther skull, Luna moth, and oh, that's cool. Put a picture of it in Discord. I want to see it. Therese says, I use Pro Tools, and the S's, much FYI. I use Pro Tools, and there's so much to learn, but I'm finding it fun. Yeah, it's always a learning curve with something new, right? It's always a learning curve with something new. Thank you for everybody who has joined, watching, sent me some likes on TikTok. I appreciate you guys. Sorry, I got click happy. I also use Pro Tools. A few shortcomings with what I am currently doing, though. Audition has the benefit of batch bouncing multiple chapters at once when using sections. So unless you're going to pay for something like Bounce Factory, Audition is better for long format books. I have found Audition to have so many additional voiceover specific or audiobook specific features that are, just included. They're natively there within the software. You didn't have to buy additional plugins or anything for it. And one of those is like batch effects. There's a bunch of different batch tools, so you can do multiple files at once. I was trying to think of what the name was. Gramp says, it never rains in Southern California, according to Edward Hammond. It did on occasion. I remember it rained a few times between the earthquakes in California. Anthony says, it is more important than ever for all of us to create more streams of revenue, and we can entertain, educate, and inspire through socials and make money at the same time. Well said, Anthony. Gramp says, Cubase, a digital audio workstation for music production, recording, editing, and mixing. It comes in different versions such as Elements, Artist, and Pro with varying features. Oh, Cubase is old school. Okay. Okay, I'm familiar with mainly the ones that I hear all the time with the people that I talk to. And in eight years, I don't think maybe in passing, but I've never looked into Cubase because it doesn't sound like not familiar, but I couldn't tell you what it was. But mostly we talk about Audacity, Adobe Audition, and Reaper, and Pro Tools, and Studio One, and there's also GarageBand that's mentioned. But for the most part, those. Ken P says, definitely business cards are being printed. Any other inexpensive suggestions for swap from the watching masses? For swag, maybe? I think another thing we talked about is there's, what is it called? Is it a dot? It's like a business card that you can, correct me if I'm wrong, but you could tap it and then you could pick up someone's website from it. Almost like a QR code, but you tap your phone to it and it takes them right to your website, something like that. But if you also have, like, at the very least, a keychain that's got your QR code on it, and you just go, here, if someone says, hey, do you have a card? Well, here, just scan this, it'll take you right to my website. But me being old school, I want everything to be tangible, right? I don't rely on digital everything to store everything that I need, because maybe I'm just Gen X and don't completely trust cloud-based services, but I want to be able to find it in case there's no electricity, there's no Wi-Fi. I want to be able to, you know what I mean? I just have a backup, like I have a tangible thing in my hand, like CDs versus MP3s, right? I'm one of those. So if you have a keychain with your QR code on it that takes them to your website, you could have that too. Or Walk around with a t-shirt like I do that has my logo and my website on the back. Walk around with that too. Coffee mugs, pens. Rebecca says, I just got an analog piece and love it. Fair warning, it's an investment. So consult with the sound engineer you trust if you want to go that route. Like Caesar. Speaking of which, where is he? Does anybody know where Caesar's at? He's usually here. Jason said, I've been thinking about switching to Audition. Good to know the Audacity skills and techniques will transfer. For the most part, I didn't have any real big issues with transferring what I knew or what I learned about Audacity to Adobe Audition. Most of it was the same. And again, some things were the same, but just named differently, right? I mean, it's not as big of a learning curve as you would think. At least it wasn't for me. Because Adobe Audition just made more sense to me, I think, than Audacity. Joy says, wow, I have skills in creating PowerPoint presentations. There you go. Yeah. There's people create video presentations from PowerPoints. Like they build out the presentation in PowerPoint form. And then the end result, after you're done doing your magic with it, your voiceover, music, and you convert it to video and all of those things, boom, video presentation they can send to a client. Yes, ma'am. You can do that with Canva slides too, and Google Slides. Cloud Sugar says, if you set yourself up as an LLC taxed as an S-Corp and pay yourself as the only employee of the business, you pay taxes on your paycheck and then only pay income tax on what is not paid out. Consult your tax accountant. For those of you watching, I am not giving tax advice. At least that's how I have my business is set up. Was paying way too much in taxes before, and now I at least get a refund instead of paying back in every year. Joy says, have you heard anything about trends in VO for 2026 yet? No. Mainly, I don't really know of anything really changing other than more conversational still, more... What's going on outside? More relaxed, relatable, like you're having a conversation with your best friend, kind of stuff. I see some. Thank you for the gifts on TikTok. You guys are amazing. I just saw a question though. Steve Voiceover says some cups, some pens for this time of the year, maybe some cards, and you're good to go. There you go. Pens, I would say, is a good one. I mean, when people always need pens to jot stuff down, right? But you know what, Joy? I'll have to look up some, if there's anything really trending. But I think it's pretty much the same in terms of application and tone. I haven't heard of anything really different. In terms of audiobooks, I think more varied casting, meaning like more dual and duet audiobooks and full cast audiobooks versus just singular narrator. I think a lot more people are looking at those, like full production audiobooks. Same with podcasts and things. But we'll have to look into that, Joy. There should be a topic for an upcoming conversation, I think. Review Exchange Group says, have any of you tried to get a guest shot on a book review podcast? Not as the author, but as the book's narrator. If you're working royalty share, it might be worth trying anything to boost listening hours. That's true. And you should be, if you are doing royalty share audiobooks, you should be promoting the book. You just should be. Because that's not only promoting the author's sales, but also yours. If it's a team endeavor, it's a team effort, right? To sell this audiobook. So you should be promoting this audiobook as well. Tanya says, I don't know if it's available in the US, but I use Blink, which is a digital business card app. Used it a few times at a recent convention when people asked for my website. And how did people, how did they react to the Blink thing? I'm curious about that. Rebecca says, Caesar is still dealing with the volcano. Oh, the volcano tech thing. Hang on, gotta do the puzzle thing for TikTok. There we go. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a good time of the year to say hi to those not some regular clients. Absolutely. The holidays is really a good time to check in with the clients that you already have. If you've been doing this for a year or two, check in with your clients every so often and to remind them that you're there and then you're available. Just to say hi. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is. Happy Halloween. Review Exchange Group says best giveaway audiobooks via a promo code. There you go. But I would also say promoting the audiobooks, whether it's per finished hour or royalty share, any audiobook that you do, with the author's permission, of course, which I don't know any author that wouldn't want to promote their audiobook, but if you could create a short little trailer using the retail sample that you've already created for the audiobook production, and then you go over to a site like headliner.app, and then you make a free, a free little video with an audio snippet from the retail sample, and then maybe an image of the book cover art, and then download it, and then send that off to all of your social media profiles. I mean, that's a process that wouldn't take very long at all. And I think that would be, if you wanted to, you can make that an extra add-on service, to make social media content for that audiobook as well. Right? For Blink, Tanya says they were pleased to be able to use a QR code and have the info instantly. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so Blink. How did you spell it? B-L-I-N-Q? Yes, I'm writing that down. B-L-I-N-Q. I'm going to check that out. Thank you for sharing, Tanya. Cloud Sugar says, have you ever had to renegotiate deadline dates or prices due to how much work you didn't anticipate? Yes. Yes. If the client told you it was going to be, let's just say, a 10,000 word project, right? They told you this, and they never sent you a script or a manuscript where you yourself verify the word count, which I always recommend doing before you start negotiating rates. But for whatever reason, if you didn't, and it turns out to be 100,000 words because they omitted a zero, whether accidentally or on purpose or whatever it was, then yes, then I would stop the bus right then and there, stop that train, and say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, you told me it was this, it's actually this. Here is the cost difference and the time difference. What do you want to do? Because that's just fair, right? If the error was on their side, which it clearly was, if they texted you 10,000, but in reality it's 100,000, whether omitting that zero was a mistake or not, there's going to be a cost and a time difference. There just is. Or if we're talking about, like maybe you get sick and you need an extra week or an extra couple of days, I've always found that authors are human too. And they will understand, clients too. They're also human. They've been there. They've been through it. 99% of the time for me, we're like, yeah, I'd rather have, the finished product be what I need it to be if you're not feeling well. So yeah, go ahead and take an extra couple days and get better. And then, get to it when you can get to it. Tanya says they were the sort of people who live on their phones. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Eric says, so Angela, if you had to record drop-ins, do you run the effects on the drop-in as well before inserting? Yes. So if I have the file recorded and then I apply my effects rack, then I go through and edit it, my last step is always normalizing to -3. So I will keep the WAV file as processed and edited, and then my MP3, if we're talking audiobooks, then my MP3 is done. It is processed, edited, and normalized, and then converted to MP3, so 2 different files. And I keep the WAV file that way, everything but normalization for drop-ins. So if I have a revision or something to add, I record it on a separate file, and then I use the same effect rack as I did on the audiobook or on the finished file. And then I apply it, fix it, whatever I'm going to do to it. And then I drop it into the WAV file that's everything but normalized. And then I normalize them all together and then resave it as the new MP3 if we're talking audiobooks. Does that make sense? I think I made a video on this before. I think I did. Or at least I showed, maybe I did. I'll have to go and look. Review Exchange Group says, that's a writer downer, the idea about the headliner with retail sample. I like it. Headliner.app. And I think there might be a few other free video softwares out there, apps. Is CapCut free? But there's a lot of stuff out there now, a lot of apps. What are some free audio? And I did it. Well, no, I did a video on this, but it was probably a few years ago now. But there are some video creation apps that you can use to create this stuff. Headliner.app is what I used years ago, and it's still there. And I think you can download, 10 of those a month for free. Any more than that, you have to pay. So, I mean, it's worth looking into. Cloud Sugar says, when you do those drop-ins in a separate file, how do you maintain consistency with your previous recording's emotions, tone? Well, I go back and listen to the preceding dialogue or the preceding audio before and after, whatever it is that I'm fixing, whatever it is that I'm dropping in. And then just record the redo in that same kind of tone or emotion. All right, you guys, it's been over an hour. Thank you so much again for joining me on a live discussion here on my channel. If there's something you guys want to talk about in the future, again, these live streams are for you. So if there's something that you want to talk more about in terms of audiobooks, voiceover, business side, whatever it is, these are for you. So if there's something you want to learn more about or talk about as a group, because, there's always 30 to 60 people here, apart from myself, we'll talk about it. We'll discuss it together and, throw some ideas around. So let me know. Let me know in the comments what you want to talk about. Other than that, I will see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, Tuesday at 12 p.m. EST. I'll see you guys all then. I would sign off on all of the platforms. Bye, guys.